The Johnny Bravo and Rosemary wedding. It's all anyone can talk about. How can you not do a video talking about the wedding that took place on Impact Wrestling this past Tuesday on AXS TV, the whodunit that followed. Now, before we get into the finer details of this, we are going to run down the suspects in the whodunit drama that is the Johnny Bravo and Rosemary wedding. But I must say, I know a lot of people rolled their eyes and said, oh, this was terrible, it was corny and all of that sort of stuff. Yes, it was. But it was brilliant at the same time. I absolutely loved it, and it's got a lot of buzz from the corniness, the strangeness, the suspects, who did it, who attacked Johnny Bravo. I think it's fantastic. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So let's get into it. In the main event segment of Johnny Bravo of this past week of Impact Wrestling, Johnny Bravo and Rosemary, their long-awaited wedding took place. Now everyone was ready for the giant ceremony. All attendees had assembled around the ring, and in the ring, Father James Mitchell made an appearance. He was resurrected to officiate the big ceremony. Now, everything was going to plan for much of the big segment. Bravo and Rosemary said their vows without a hitch or hiccup. There was no interruptions. They even paused on several occasions for the long-awaited pro wrestling interruptions, but there were none. There were absolutely none. We had the ring imp, whatever they called it, which was Swoggle, by the way, another Swoggle appearance after he returned at Bound for Glory on Saturday. Swoggle handed the rings to Bravo and Rosemary as expected. The bride and groom said "I do" and then Father James Mitchell pronounced them as husband and wife. The Virgin Bravo then leaned in to kiss the demon Rosemary, but suddenly the lights went out. The lights went out and a gunshot echoed throughout the arena amidst all the confusion. And suddenly when the lights came back on, Johnny Bravo, yes, lay deceased in the middle of the ring. Tommy Dreamer ran into the ring and shouted, "Who shot Johnny Bravo?" He lets out a horrific scream reminiscent of Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker in The Empire Strikes Back. And that ended the episode. Rosemary, though, she didn't look that concerned. She sort of just stared on, very unconcerned, like this was a regular occurrence for her. But with the assassination of Johnny Bravo, a whodunit looks to dominate Impact Wrestling in the weeks to come. This, to me, is essentially the follow-up of WrestleHouse, really, isn't it? I mean, WrestleHouse was widely praised, and especially by yours truly, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And what's funny is that during the WrestleHouse segments, which I absolutely loved, the only thing I was actually quite critical of was the Johnny Bravo Rosemary stuff. It just didn't do it for me. But after watching this wedding on Tuesday, it just, I don't know if it all clicked for me, but I just thought it was brilliant. I thought it's Impact Wrestling taking a risk, doing something different, doing something unique, not taking themselves so seriously. And look, I know I said that I didn't enjoy the Le Dinner Debonair with Chris Jericho and MJF a few weeks ago, and I didn't on Dynamite. I thought it was over the top, and I don't like musicals. But I like this, and I think that's just, it's one of those things. It's like I said during the Le Dinner Debonair, we did a video about it on the channel, and I said at the time that pro wrestling, it's just about preference. It's just about opinions. And you either like something or you don't, and I really enjoyed the wedding. I really did enjoy that wedding. Now, Impact Wrestling has no shortage on the suspects that could have shot Johnny Bravo, but it looks like Impact Wrestling have confirmed that a cartoon character is not in the frame for the murder here. Now, obviously, a fan shared a Simpsons gif referencing the famous Who Shot Mr. Burns episode of The Simpsons itself, which is a play on the Who Shot JR episode of Dallas. But Impact responded to this and said, quote, "I believe we can rule out Maggie Simpson at least." So Maggie Simpson isn't going to appear on the screen at any point as a suspect for the assassination of Johnny Bravo. Now, a couple of extra details before we go into the suspects about who was the one who pulled the trigger, it looks like, for Johnny Bravo. PW Insider has reported that the segment was written by R.D. Evans, who was previously reported to appear on the show as Deonna Purrazzo's barrister during those segments, with Deonna Purrazzo and Scott D'Amore in the ring and in the back too. R.D. Evans used to be a writer for WWE. He actually produced the Bret Hart and the Hart Foundation Hall of Fame speech a couple of years ago, in which Bret Hart referenced Vince McMahon during the speech, which is a big no-no for the Hall of Fame. So he just quit. Instead of waiting to get fired, he just quit. So that's probably where you may have heard R.D. Evans before, but it looks like he is doing some writing now and maybe even appearing on screen for Impact Wrestling going forward. Now, a lot of people mocked and laughed at Tommy Dreamer's lengthy, over-the-top no at the end of the segment after Johnny Bravo's murder. And a lot of people thought it was a reference to Star Wars, as I mentioned, with Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader in The Empire Strikes Back when he gets his hand cut off. But actually, PW Insider reported there was actually a homage to Bruce Campbell's famous moment at the end of Evil Dead 2. So there you go, a little bit of a insider reference there. But something big was always going to happen. Something big always happens when it comes to weddings in professional wrestling, and they were referencing this throughout the shows. The whole point of weddings in pro wrestling, one, it always does a good rating. It just always does. I think back even to the Lana and Lashley wedding at the end of last year, that actually it was awful and it was terrible, but it did a big rating for Raw. I think it got like 2.5 million viewers. Can you imagine if Raw got 2.5 million viewers now? They do like 1.6 to 1.8 million live viewers. That shows weddings do draw, and they always end in chaos, and they always end with something crazy happening. And this was built up throughout the show. You had several Impact Wrestling wrestlers mentioned that they had a bad feeling about this. That's what they kept saying. I have a bad feeling about this. It was, I guess, why people thought there was a Star Wars reference with Tommy Dreamer, because I have a bad feeling about this is said in every Star Wars movie. And I have a bad feeling about this was said by Havoc after resurrecting Father James Mitchell to officiate the wedding. It was said by Falabar after he was confronted backstage. It was said by Johnny Swinger during a backstage segment with Falabar. It was said by Taya Valkyrie after getting the sort of terror card from Rosemary during their backstage segment. And it was also said by Josh Matthews on commentary. So by the end of the show, by the time the segment came around, we were pretty much told, look, something bad is going to happen here. Something crazy and strange is going to happen here. And we weren't let down. Now, I mentioned about some of the cameos in the wedding. We had the bridal party, which consisted of Swoggle, the Deaners, Johnny Swinger, we had Triple XL, and then Taya Valkyrie came out as, I guess, the maid of honor with Falabar, who was the best man, but he was dressed as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It was very much a Halloween in-keeping theme to the wedding. As I mentioned, Father James Mitchell officiated the wedding, and he was resurrected from what they called the bad place, which I guess they're assuming is, yeah, you get what it is. Rosemary was walked down the aisle by Crazy Steve, and I think some people, when they saw this, again, it's the element of pro wrestling that is the modern 2020 pro wrestling, which again, I know on my video about the Le Dinner Debonair that I said I prefer realistic and gritty storylines and realism. I do. But if it's played completely for humor and the characters are humorous characters, I don't have a problem with it. I think the difference is, when the reason I didn't like the Chris Jericho MJF thing was, one, it was musicals and I hate musicals. Two, Chris Jericho and MJF are main event talent, and no one, no offense, involved in this storyline, Johnny Bravo and Rosemary, they're not going to be main eventing the show. I mean, Rosemary, Knockouts champion, but you get my point. They're comedic characters, and it was meant to be not taking itself too seriously. As far as Johnny Bravo, is he ever going to return? Of course he's going to return. He hasn't been killed off. I think he's been killed off for the purposes of this storyline. But when you've got Rosemary involved, who is resurrecting people, I mean, James Mitchell was resurrected for the segment itself. So I'm sure in the coming weeks, we will get Johnny Bravo resurrected, or some character of how he's resurrected. He comes back as a zombie. I don't know. It's pro wrestling. He ain't dead. Even in the land of soaps and TV soaps, they're not dead. No one ever stays dead in these kind of deals. So I think the storyline will conclude with him being resurrected in the same way that James Mitchell was resurrected to host the wedding. So who are the suspects? Let's go through some of the suspects. Who could be potentially the person that actually pulled the trigger on Johnny Bravo? Now, for one that I've seen online, because I did a bit of research as to some theories, what people are saying, as in addition to my own theories about who will be the trigger man or woman in this case. Now, during the blackout, when the lights went out, a lot of people speculated that what they heard over and over again was the reference to the name of former X Division champion Chris Bay. You can clearly hear someone continuously shout, "Where's Chris Bay? Chris Bay, where are you? Chris Bay, anyone find Chris Bay?" So that led to some people going, maybe Chris Bay would be the trigger man in this case. I don't think so. I don't think so. It just doesn't fit. There is no narrative there, and maybe that's the point, is that it's so off base that maybe it would be Chris Bay, but I just don't see that. I don't know if I would really want Chris Bay to be involved in this storyline either. Chris Bay, for me, has such an upside. He's such a big talent and so talented, and I was shocked how quickly he lost the X Division Championship. In my opinion, he'll get it back at some point because he just is that good. So I just don't see Chris Bay being involved in this. Obviously, he was there at the wedding. He was one of the names that was surrounding the ring. But I just don't see that. I just don't see that being the case. There was no teases for Chris Bay before the wedding happened. And the only reason people are talking about it is because someone was shouting Chris Bay loudly. Now, obviously, some people are saying, well, if they're shouting it that loudly, then obviously they did it on purpose. Maybe they did. Maybe they did do it on purpose, but that purpose would be to throw people off. That purpose would be to be a red herring. I don't think Chris Bay is going to be the one who is the trigger man in the case of the assassination of Johnny Bravo. So who else? What other suspects have we got here? Well, Hernandez and Reno Scum, they're obviously one of the leading suspects here. They believe that Johnny Bravo has stolen their money. Now, Johnny Bravo obviously had Falaba as his best man, and over the last few weeks we've seen the mini storyline, I suppose, of Falaba and Hernandez, where Falaba had stolen the money from Hernandez and Reno Scum. We even had a segment prior to the wedding taking place backstage, where Hernandez and Reno Scum confronted Falaba, asking where is the money, and told Falaba to kiss his Converses, but Falaba said to him, look, I don't have it. I don't have it. He said that he admitted to Hernandez and Reno Scum, he said, you know what, I did steal it, but I did it for Johnny Bravo, and he said that he gave the money to Johnny Bravo. So Hernandez and Reno Scum go after and leave the segment. They go after Johnny Bravo, looking for Johnny Bravo, but once the segment was done, we then see that Falaba actually pulls the money, the wad of cash, out of his tights, which is when he says he has a bad feeling about this. So Hernandez and Reno Scum leave that segment thinking that Johnny Bravo had stolen the cash. That's pretty good motive to pull the trigger right there. So potentially Hernandez and Reno Scum could, one of those three men, be the trigger man in the person that assassinated Johnny Bravo. Now, what about the wife? What about the wife in Rosemary? In a lot of these cases, whenever things like this happen, you always have to look to the spouse or the family first. And that would have been Rosemary in this case. Now, earlier on in the show, there was a backstage segment between Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary. And that Taya Valkyrie, she said she was worried about Johnny Bravo. She said she was worried about the man that Johnny Bravo has become. She said that Johnny Bravo had turned into a complete lunatic, that he was out of control. She even said to Rosemary, look, you can leave right now. You don't have to go through with this wedding. Don't go through with it. You don't have to do this. But Rosemary was very, very calm there. She said earlier on in the show that she had a plan. She said that why would I leave right at the end game here? She said she had something much better in mind than leaving him at the altar, and then handed that card to Taya Valkyrie. So there's lots of different ways you could perceive this. Perhaps it's all part of the plan for Johnny Bravo to be assassinated here by Rosemary. Perhaps that's all part of the plan. Perhaps Rosemary, this is all, it does get quite demonic and quite sort of about hellish, doesn't it, with Father James Mitchell, and Rosemary spoke about wanting the blood and all this sort of stuff of Johnny Bravo. Perhaps the way to get Johnny Bravo into her realm is to actually pull the trigger on him. So perhaps it was Rosemary. Perhaps Rosemary was the one that pulled the trigger on Johnny Bravo. Of course, as well, Rosemary at the end of this didn't look too shocked. As everyone surrounding the ring looked horrified because Bravo laid there prone on the canvas, Rosemary didn't. She just sort of stood there with a nonchalant look on her face. So perhaps Rosemary is the suspect here. And I mentioned Taya Valkyrie there as well. Of course, Taya Valkyrie was best friends with Johnny Bravo, and she is shown this concern about what the person that Johnny Bravo has become. Mentioned that he's turned into a lunatic and that he's out of control, and was actually advising Rosemary to not take place in the wedding, not continue with the wedding. She said, you don't have to do this. Perhaps there is some jealousy there. by Taya Valkyrie. Perhaps Taya Valkyrie, instead of giving Johnny Bravo to Rosemary, perhaps she wanted Johnny Bravo all for herself. And if she can't have Johnny Bravo for herself, then nobody can have him. Maybe that's the rationale there when it comes to Taya Valkyrie and Johnny Bravo. Now, I know what you're going to say here. Of course, Taya Valkyrie in real life is married to John Morrison, John Hennigan, but this is pro wrestling, and a guy just got killed in the middle of the ring in a Halloween storyline where James Mitchell got resurrected from the dead. I think we've left logic firmly at the door when we entered this crazy, crazy wedding. So what else when we come to suspects here? What about Johnny Swinger? Johnny Swinger, of course, is very jealous that Fallah Bahh was chosen to be the best man for the wedding for Johnny Bravo over him. Now, Johnny Bravo actually laughed at Fallah Bahh after Johnny Bravo confronted Fallah Bahh earlier on in the show, and we'll get onto that confrontation there. But Johnny Swinger actually confronted Fallah Bahh after this confrontation between Johnny Bravo and Fallah Bahh and said, I have a bad feeling about this. So perhaps Johnny Swinger here attempted to get revenge on Johnny Bravo after he was turned down to be the best man for the wedding. Maybe he felt slighted. Maybe this is Johnny Swinger being his old school best. This is what would happen in the 80s, right, in pro wrestling. I mean, we've heard it. So perhaps Johnny Swinger is a suspect as well. So I mentioned Fallah Bahh there. He was dressed as a Stay Puft Marshmallow. He actually is very, very involved in this, and he should be high up on the list as one of the suspects. Fallah Bahh was told by Johnny Bravo that Fallah Bahh was dead to Bravo, and that was the phrase he used, "You are dead to me." This was after Johnny Bravo confronted Fallah Bahh after hearing that Bahh had stole the money from Hernandez and had told Hernandez that he had given the money to Johnny Bravo when in fact he hadn't. He said that if Hernandez finds Bravo, Johnny Bravo is going to tell Hernandez the truth, that Fallah Bahh does have the money and that he lied to Hernandez after stealing from him in the first place. He then said that his best man was dead to him. So perhaps Fallah Bahh is trying to protect himself here. Perhaps he's trying to keep the money and he's trying to keep the secret that he didn't give the money to Johnny Bravo in the first place and he kept the money from Hernandez. It certainly sounds like motive there that Fallah Bahh could be protecting himself from a beating from Hernandez and Reno Scum. I'm not sure why killing someone would be the best option there, but it works in strange cases, I guess, rationale in people's head. So what about some other suspects? I've got two more left that I don't really have a lot of rationale for, to be honest. Father James Mitchell himself, why? He's Father James Mitchell, that's what he does. He's an evil man, he was the sinister minister in ECW. His history in Impact Wrestling is dark and devious. He was resurrected for this. Perhaps he wanted someone to join him back where he was going to, the bad place, as Josh Matthews called it. So you can't rule him out. He was in range. Of course, he was right next to Johnny Bravo, so perhaps James Mitchell could be a suspect too. And finally, what about Tommy Dreamer? Yes, good old Tommy Dreamer. He was dressed as Road Warrior Animal, continuing the tribute to the fallen Road Warrior that he had at Bound for Glory. He continued it here. But the main thing that got people talking that it might be Tommy Dreamer was because, as I mentioned, as the segment ended, Tommy Dreamer, he went into the ring, said who shot Bravo, and then screamed no at the top of his lungs. Now, I don't want to get crass here, but you would say the rationale, whoever smelt it, doubt it. Well, Tommy Dreamer was the one first on the scene, and usually in crimes like this, the person that reported it is always a suspect. So maybe, just maybe, Tommy Dreamer might be a suspect as well. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on the wedding of Johnny Bravo and Rosemary? And most importantly, who do you think is the one who indeed shot Johnny Bravo? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys. I want to hear your guys' theories about who the suspects are and who, most importantly, the trigger person is. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button as well. Really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.